Before this video starts, if you enjoy this video, there are many more like it already on the channel with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I am trying to hit 125,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. I upload 6 to 7 days a week on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent basketball talk, this is the place for it. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. So this is not a video that I ever anticipated making. I actually plan out my videos about a week ahead unless something happens like what happened last night, that being the Clippers blowing a 3-1 lead. And because of that, I had this thumbnail already prepared. I had bullet points written down for a Battle of LA situation in the conference finals, but here we are. It's not the Battle of LA, it's the Battle of LA and Denver. So definitely wrong about the Clippers being the 2020 championship team. I really appreciate all the comments saying this did not age well. I'm talking about all 100 plus of them. But let's get on to this matchup. So I think initially people would be a little dismissive of Denver in this series, but I think after coming back from 2 3-1 leads, being down 3-1 twice in a row now, like I think people are going to give Denver a little bit more credit than they would initially when considering this matchup. But like, Denver is just a different team in the bubble, and part of that has to do with Michael Porter Jr. playing. Part of that has to do with Jeremy Grant stepping up. Part of that has a lot to do with Jamal Murray stepping up. I just had to mention Jeremy Grant there because I stan. But the Denver Nuggets are not going to go down easy versus the Lakers, and I feel like people should not just be like, oh yeah, the Lakers are guaranteed a championship now, because I've seen so many people like already basically saying that LeBron has his 4th ring, which, first of all, would not be shocked if the Celtics or Miami Heat gave the Lakers a finals matchup that was actually not a cakewalk. And second of all, I think the Denver Nuggets could definitely give the Lakers problems. So first and foremost, we need to talk about how the Lakers defend the Denver Nuggets from the angle of the Lakers likely being the team that wins this series. So Anthony Davis is on Nikola Jokic, and that means that Jokic is going to be, he'll be fine, because what initially I thought when he faced the Jazz in the first round was Rudy Gobert is not great outside of the paint, so I imagine Jokic is just going to kill him on the perimeter, but he was still taking him inside in the post against one of the best shot blockers and post defenders in the league and consistently scoring on him. And Anthony Davis is better on the perimeter, but a little bit worse inside. So I think Jokic will pretty much balance out. So I think Jokic is going to be fine. It doesn't seem like he's really bothered by great defense all that much, because Gobert played good defense on him in that first round matchup, and it didn't matter. And Jokic, as we know, turns it up to another level in the playoffs. I think it's pretty much obvious that he's the best center in the NBA at this point. But Jamal Murray. So Danny Green's not a bad defender. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is passable. However, the way Jamal Murray has been playing in the playoffs, though, he was a little more suspect against the Clippers until the last game where he dropped 40 points. He's still going to have a good series, I imagine. He's probably going to average like 26 to 30 points per game, and that's going to be huge. The best way to beat the Lakers is with guard play, because as we know, they have a strong interior presence. What I do think will be interesting is I think the Lakers are going to be able to run their 2 big men lineups against the Nuggets until at least they put Michael Porter Jr. at the 4. Then they're going to have to go small again, because Paul Millsap's really not all that quick on his feet, and he's not an amazing three-point shooter, so I would be fine with Dwight Howard guarding him and Anthony Davis guarding Nikola Jokic, Jeremy Grant at the 4, or Michael Porter Jr. at the 4. That's going to be a different story, but at least when Paul Millsap is on the floor, the Lakers are going to be able to run 2 big men, and the paint is going to be locked down as it was for the majority of the regular season, because that was kind of Lakers' defensive scheme, was protecting the paint with 2 real big men when teams don't really run 2 real big men anymore. But that obviously was not able to happen in the second round versus the Rockets because of all their floor spacing. However, versus the Nuggets, I think the spacing will not be as significant because Paul Millsap is not all that much as a three-point shooter, and he's not quick on his feet, so it's not like he's going to just be blowing by Dwight Howard all the time or JaVale McGee. So that's that matchup. Jamal Murray is probably going to cook, and then LeBron James, Jeremy Grant, he's going to try. And Jeremy Grant is pretty much going to, the only thing he can do is guarantee that LeBron doesn't just explode all over the Nuggets. Like, all Jeremy Grant guarantees is that LeBron isn't going to average 45 points per game. And that's not a big guarantee. So they don't have a mismatch, and they shouldn't be worried about that matchup, but LeBron is going to be LeBron, and as a result, he's going to be awesome. On defense for the Nuggets, I guess I kind of already transitioned to defense, but on defense, Anthony Davis is going to play well against Nikola Jokic. That I might actually put Paul Millsap on him for most of this series. And that's where Paul Millsap is going to make up for the fact that the Lakers are able to go big on them, is because he's probably going to be a good matchup for Anthony Davis. So Nikola Jokic is likely going to be guarding whatever center they have in the game. But when the Nuggets do go small, and they're going to go small with Michael Porter at the 4 and Jeremy Grant at the 4 for a good amount, Jokic is going to have to guard Anthony Davis. And that's going to be an interesting one. Now, Anthony Davis probably won't be able to just completely out-physical Jokic, because Jokic is a physical player himself, even on defense. But he's so much faster than Nikola Jokic, and he is a better handle, and he's just going to be able to score on Jokic in the ISO a lot. And as a result, I think the Nuggets are going to have to play a lot of Paul Millsap in this series, which does give the Lakers an advantage, but I think overall it's more important to have a good matchup on Anthony Davis. And I think Jeremy Grant also wouldn't be horrible on Anthony Davis. He'd get out physical more, but he wouldn't be able to work him on the perimeter. So that's an interesting matchup for the Nuggets on defense. Also, shout out to Gary Harris, because he's been very good in the playoffs after not looking good in the regular season at all. He's been hitting his three-pointers and playing his great defense, so he's going to contribute his defense where he can. Team defense ultimately matters more than individual matchups, but in terms of individual matchups, the Nuggets are pretty much just getting an okay passing grade. They're certainly not a matchup nightmare for the Lakers by any means. And I think the Lakers are going to be defending the Nuggets. So I really think defense isn't going to be a huge factor in this series. I think this is really just going to be a battle of who has the best offense. And honestly, even though the Lakers have the better duo, obviously, and they have at least the best player in the series, potentially the two of the three best players in the series, depending on how you feel about Jokic versus Anthony Davis. I always felt Davis was better, but honestly, the way that Jokic has been playing, I have no fucking idea at this point. They might have the better players up top. The Nuggets have more depth, and they have more three-point shooting, a lot more three-point shooting. They also have more than two guys who can create their shot, because Michael Porter Jr. can also create his shot. Jeremy Grant is pretty good at creating his shot. And Monte Morris is pretty good at creating his own shot. So not going to be a cakewalk for the Lakers guarding them. And I think Denver's offense will have many moments where they are able to match the Lakers' offense, if not exceed it. So that's going to be an interesting situation where I think this series is going to come down to offense. And even though the Lakers have the star power, I don't know if they have that much better of an offense than the Denver Nuggets do. So if I'm trying to call this series, I'm going to go with a team that has more star power, more experience, and my new best player in the NBA now that Kawhi Leonard completely choked away Game 7, because now I just have to say that it's LeBron. So as a result, I'm going to give this series to the team that has the best player in the world, but I'm also not expecting this to be a cakewalk for the Los Angeles Lakers, because I don't think they're going to play defense that really bothers the Nuggets. I don't think the Nuggets are going to play defense that bothers the Lakers. So this series is going to come down to who has the best offense, and I don't think there's an obvious answer there. I think down the stretch, it's going to matter that the Lakers have LeBron James and the second greatest player who has ever played basketball. And as a result of that, I think I'm going to have to give them that win. And in terms of how many games it'll be, it could be anywhere from 5 to 7 as far as I'm concerned, because anything can happen. And really, if the one wild card here, and it's not even a wild card, but it kind of is because he's been a little inconsistent. If Jamal Murray plays anything close to like what he played versus the Utah Jazz, then I would actually put money on the Denver Nuggets. But he played ridiculously in that series to a point where that cannot be expected to be replicated. But if Murray averaged like 30 points on really good efficiency in this series, Jokic continued to dominate the playoffs like he has for all of his time in the playoffs in his career thus far. If both of those things happened, let's say Michael Porter Jr. averages like 18 points per game for the series. Gary Harris is hitting his threes. Monte Morris is creating some offense off of the bench. There is some other shooting coming off of the bench. Jeremy Grant is hitting his threes. Paul Millsap is playing good defense on Anthony Davis. Like, there are pretty reasonable possibilities for the Nuggets to beat this Lakers team. So I'm going to say Lakers in 6, but would not be as shocked as I'm sure many people would be at the Nuggets winning this series, because in that series versus the Clippers, it really was, even though there was a lot of the Clippers beating themselves, especially in game 7, the Nuggets definitely thoroughly outplayed a team that we expected to be one of the 3 best teams in the league and one of the 3 teams competing for a championship. So yeah, Lakers in 6, but would not be entirely shocked if Denver gave them a real series. That is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.